You want to do a book haul with me? You want to tell everyone what my favorite books are? My favorite romance authors? Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Giana Darling and I am a... Okay, I'm gonna get him out of here. I am Giana Darling. I am a Wall Street Journal and USA Today best-selling romance author, and I am here today to tell you about some of my favorite romance authors. I'm not going through all of them because as I was pulling from my shelves, I realized just how many there are to choose from. So I pulled some today, and I have a huge stack here of books that I'm going to get through. There's a few from each of my favorite romance authors, and I will tell you kind of my favorite book from them and then a little bit about them as an author. So I don't know all of them personally, and some of them are my friends. That has no bearing. A lot of the times as an author, you end up fangirling over someone and then you connect over books. And that's what I love about the community. Every author that you fangirl over fangirls over someone else. So it's kind of a fun aspect of this community. But without further ado, let's get started. And I'm gonna start with Jessica Hawkins. Jessica Hawkins writes the kind of books that I adore. She writes mostly cheating books, and I know that a lot of people hate cheating. It's very polarizing, but she does it so well where you really root for the hero and heroine to be together. She does have a slip of the tongue and a few others where it's, you know, the hero cheats on the heroine, but for the most part, she has the two MCs, the main characters, meet and fall in love when one of them is with someone else. And that's my favorite form of cheating romance. Again, cheating in fantasy, not cheating in real life. But Jessica Hawkins does it so well, and Something in the Way has like a cult following. It blew up a number of years ago for good reason. It's a simply amazing, amazing story. If you read my series, The Evolution of Sin, you will like this. It's a similar setup in terms of who's cheating on who without giving anything away. Okay, so Jessica Hawkins, fabulous. I have so many more paperbacks of Candy Steiner's on my shelf, and I just forgot to pull them out. So this is the only one that I have right now to show you guys. It's A Love Letter to Whiskey. This is such an emotional read. It is so emotional, and if you love a heroine who has like serious growth and you love that feeling of like your heart being ripped out of your chest, Candy Steiner's your girl. She loves to write angst, and A Love Letter to Whiskey is so angsty. Make Me Hate You is another one that I adore that's very angsty. Weightless is incredible. Another angsty read. If you like something that's a little bit more fun, and if you're really big into sports romance, she has a lot of sports romances as well. Red Zone Rivals series is chef's kiss. It's incredible. I also love Close Quarters, which is set on a yacht, and it's because I think there's a reality TV show that she watched called Below Deck that inspired her to write it, and it's such a good book. It's one of my favorites by hers. I will always pick up any Candy Steiner book. I love her both as a person and as an author. She's sublime. Next up, I have Carian Cole, and Carian Cole writes a lot of age gap books. So if you love age gap, which if you've read my books, you probably do, Carian Cole is the one for you. Torn is the first one that I ever read by her. It's a significant age gap, as in he literally holds her when she's a baby, when she's born, because his best friends were teenage parents. And it's very forbidden. It's very taboo, but it's so beautiful, the love story. And she does a really good job of writing age gaps. And Don't Kiss the Bride is another example of that. This is so much fun. I actually recently read this. I'd had the paperback for a while, and I don't read my paperbacks, so I read it on my Kindle. It's so good. It's a marriage of convenience, age gap, and it's a very unique storyline that is just wonderful. Carian Cole writes really like emotional, forbidden books. They're also quite fun. So highly recommend Carian Cole. Next one is an emotional hard hitter, Kennedy Ryan. Kennedy Ryan is actually now a New York Times bestseller. I don't think it says it on this because she actually hit the New York Times bestseller list with this book. And this is one of the early copies that I bought. I actually have two of these because I just was so excited for her. I'll start with Long Shot because she actually won a Rita Award for this book. It is her Hoops series. It's a basketball series, so sports romance here for all the sports loving girlies. This is a very serious book. And to be honest with you, all of Kennedy's books deal with really hard-hitting topics. The Grip series is one of my favorites. It's, I think, the series that she kind of blew up with at first, and it's about a interracial relationship between a Black rapper and his girlfriend, and it deals with like police brutality and racism. And I also love the Kingmaker series, which is about an Indigenous woman getting together with the CEO of an oil company. And it talks about like water rights and Indigenous issues. And Longshot deals with domestic abuse. And I mean, they're all very hard-hitting topics, but she does them with such a deft hand, and they leave you feeling uplifted despite the content matter. They're all happily ever afters, of course, and she's just such a beautiful wordsmith, and her love stories feel so epic. So I highly recommend Kennedy Ryan. Okay, so I actually just had QB on for a live. If you want to go watch that, you should, because she's also one of my favorite romance authors, as well as one of my very best friends. And these are two special editions that I have. This is from Hello Lovely Box, and Fit Teacher Rachel did this one. And I'm obsessed with both of these books and both of these editions. So the Bittersweet Duet is a very messy love story. QB writes messy love stories, forbidden, taboo kind of, you know, like Best Friend's Dad or Guardian Ward, a lot of really forbidden topics like that. And she writes sexy storylines and scenes that are like, woo, okay, you know, fan yourself, which I love. And her heroines are very sassy. And so even though a lot of the dynamics are like power imbalances, the heroine, like in Unconditional, the heroine is much younger and she's his ward, but she is so strong and independent and sassy that it kind of balances out the power dynamic a lot, which is really important in those kinds of stories. She's also really good at writing cheating, which I love, as you know. And the Bittersweet Duet is one of my absolute faves. It's so, so good. So I highly recommend both of these. I recommend all of them. She's coming out with another cheating romance that actually just landed on my Kindle, and you better believe I am gonna gobble that up tonight when I am done work. This is one of my OG favorite authors, and she's actually Canadian, and she actually lives in the same city that I do, which is kind of fabulous, but in my unbiased opinion, she's also fantastic, and that's Karina Halle. Karina Halle writes so many different types of books, and they are all amazing. She has a series called Experiments in Terror, which is a romance horror series that I absolutely adore and love, I put together because that's how much I love them. In a more conventional approach, she also has Love in English, which is one of my favorite age gaps of all time. It's about a woman who goes to Spain, and she goes to this like summer camp, and she meets a Spanish soccer player there, and thus begins their kind of summer romance. And then The Forbidden Man is actually kind of set in the same world, but she wrote it much later, and it's a reverse age gap, as in older woman, younger man, soccer romance, and it's equally as fabulous. But she also writes paranormal romance that are amazing. Blood Orange is chef's kiss. I don't have it, and I really want to get it because the cover itself is beautiful, but it's a vampire romance. She has a Sleepy Hollow retelling. She is coming out with like a mermaid paranormal romance. So she writes across all different kinds of romance genres, and she does them all exquisitely. So whatever type of romance you like, she's probably written it. I would recommend checking her out. These next two are my comfort read romances. So I love these romance authors so much. I wouldn't say that they're the typical types of romances that I try to pick up. I love good, like really poetic prose. I love very spicy scenes, and I love a lot of angst. These two next romance authors do not really bring any of that, but they're my comfort reads. So I pull them out when I'm feeling like I'm in a slump or I'm feeling a bit down, because they're like eating popcorn. They're just so palatable. They make me happy. They make me feel giddy inside, and I just love them. You know exactly what you're gonna get when you pick up either of these authors' books, and it's like the no surprise, kind of calm, peaceful reading experience. So first up is Kristen Ashley. I love Kristen Ashley's books. I've read most of them. I think there's only a handful that I haven't read, and she's quite prolific. So I think she has 40 plus books, and I've read them all, and I've read a lot of them more than once. And that's saying something, because I am not a rereader. I'm a rewatcher of TV and a re-listener of music, but I am not typically a rereader. So I love these books. I've actually read both of these multiple times. I've read this one a ton. Night is the first book in her Unfinished Hero series. This one actually, I think is not one of her more popular series, but I like it, of course, because it deals with anti-heroes. So Knight actually runs a club and he ends up being kind of too good to be true. He meets her at a party and he's quite rude, but he ends up taking an interest in her because she lives in a bad part of town, etc., etc. And he's very swoony, and then she finds out that he's actually a criminal. And I love that setup. It's one of my favorite setups for a romance novel. So, and this one is really spicy. Kristen Ashley had this series, and she has like the Honey series, I believe it's called, which is a BDSM sex club series. Those are her spiciest books by far. So no wonder I really enjoyed this series because it's spicy. At Peace is the second book in the Berg series, which is all set in an Indiana suburb, which I know doesn't sound very exciting. They are very exciting. The first book is good too. It's with February and Colt, and there's like a serial killer involved, but I love At Peace because this is about a very broken, traumatized man. Their next door neighbors, she hates him because he's very rude and grumpy, but over time they develop this rapport, and she is a widower with 2 teenage daughters, and he kind of develops a rapport with all 3 of them. It's such a beautiful story, so much found family and kind of getting past trauma. Both of them have serious trauma, and Cal, the hero, is just broken, beautiful, and you just want to like hold him and love him. And he's very sexy as well. So these are just 2 of the ones I love. I love so many of her books. Golden Dynasty, if you love fantasy romance, and if you liked Khal Drogo from Game of Thrones, definitely read Golden Dynasty because it's kind of inspired by that, and it's bellissima. But I love so many of her books. So DM me or comment if you want to have any other recommendations from Kristen Ashley. Okay, the next one, which I talked about, that's in the same vein of Kristen Ashley, as in, I know exactly what I'm getting when I read these books. They are low angst, very slow burn. I would say like these books define slow burn. Some of them, they kiss, and that's like the climax of the book. There's just something so comforting and so immersive about these books. You feel really like it's your daily life that you're living with these characters. Super immersive, which I adore. And they're all written, all 4 of these that I brought. I have all her books, but these are Mariana Zapata books. And I love Mariana Zapata, or MZ as I call her. I don't know her. I don't know her at all, but I love her books. These are in my top 5 actually, all of these. And that's Wait For It, which is a single mom. I mean, she's the guardian of her deceased brother's 2 kids and her next door neighbor. I love the next door neighbor trope, apparently. It's so wholesome and so beautiful. I just think it's like one of those stories that leaves you feeling like you have bubbles inside your chest. Just giddy and happy and in love with both characters. And it definitely top 5 Mariana Zapata book. And you can see they're all very thick, and there's not really spice in any of these, so just forewarning you. All Roads Lead Here, which is a silver fox hero, which you don't see that much of, but he's absolutely gorgeous and delightful. She is a very cool heroine. She's a songwriter, and she's basically like gone to this town in order to hike some of the trails that her mother hiked, and her mother has passed away. It's a really beautiful read. He's a single dad. We love a single dad. These 2 are my favorites. Wall of Winnipeg, he's Canadian, and it's a marriage of convenience, and she's his assistant and he's a football player. And Culty, which is a soccer romance, and he's the coach and she's a player, and they're both very grumpy. Mariana Zapata does Grumpy Sunshine like you could not believe. If you love that trope, you have got to try her books. Even if you prefer spicy, fast-paced romance, I swear there's something about these that's like addictive, and you will thoroughly enjoy picking up a Mariana Zapata book. So, highly recommend. We are down to the last 2, and the last 2, it's so hot in here. The last 2 really embody what I love about reading and what I look for in authors, and in my favorite authors. And that is poetic prose, spice, and a really unique storyline. No surprise, anyone who knows me knows, Sierra Simone is one of my absolute favorite authors. She's incredible. She's also an incredible person, but she writes the most niche books ever. They revolve around spirituality, either like the church or pagan sexuality. Like in this book, there's like pagan sex rituals with a group of people. It's a love story about 5 people? Yes, 6 people, sorry. So there's group sex scenes, super spicy, but also incredibly beautiful and evocative. I can just flip to a page and say something like, I mean, I can't even tell you how beautiful her prose is. Let me see if I can find something here. I turned to say something to Saint Sebastian. I'm not sure what, but I didn't like this weird fault line running through the hallway. This fault line I don't understand. And that's when I catch Auden looking at me and Saint Sebastian. No, not looking, devouring. A high flush dusts his cheeks, and his wide, boyish mouth is set in the same hungry, tortured line it was 12 years ago, right before he pulled me into a searing wedding kiss. Oh, couldn't you just eat that with a spoon? It's so lush and gorgeous. So I will read her books no matter what she writes about. I don't care if it's group sex. I don't care if it's a throuple. She does a throuple like no one else. The new Camelot series, which I have multiple editions on my shelf that I didn't pull, absolutely incredible. It's a Arthur, Guinevere, and Lancelot loose retelling, like inspired by, and it's the president, the vice president, and Greer, the heroine. So, I mean, who doesn't love all the yummy power dynamics there? And then her latest throuple is Salt Kiss is the first one. Honeycut comes out soon. And yes, I do have it on my Kindle to read early, and I'm super excited about it because, as I said, I'm obsessed with Sierra Simone. But it's a loose retelling of Tristan, Isolde, and Mark, which is another ancient kind of myth, and Celtic myth. So it's in the same world as the new Camelot trilogy, but you don't have to read them in order or anything if you want to pick this one up first. It's an arranged marriage, bodyguard, assassin, romance. I can't even summarize her books. They're so complicated, but I love them. Give her a try. They're beautiful. Last but not least is C.D. Reese, who I feel like does not get enough love. Look at my tower of books beside me, sorry. But I love C.D. Reese, Christine. She writes incredible romances. Her prose it's not as whimsical as Sierra Simone's. It's quite punchy and it can be staccato, but it's so beautiful. Her turns of phrase are just incredible. Let me see if I can find something here too. He kissed my thumb, running his tongue along the length as he fucked me. We were dressed up but joined in our most vulnerable places. My back hurt where it was pushed against the stone vanity and my shoulder was jammed into a cabinet. I heard the sounds of the party, and one of my shoes was about to fall off. I felt ripped apart by the size of him. Like, she does spice so wonderfully. I think she's like one of the best authors of spice that I've ever read. And her books are very plot oriented as well. So I find them really like amusing and fun and entertaining, captivating. I can't put them down. This is one of my favorite series by her. It's the Corruption series, I think, Rogue, Ruin, and Rule. This is the box set. And Mafia series, Teresa and Antonio are incredible, so much chemistry. Teresa is part of the Drazen family, and she has it's a family of 7, and she has books for most of the siblings. Jonathan is in the Songs of Submission series, which was the first one that I read by her. Highly recommend. BDSM, she's a singer, he's a billionaire. And then she's got one that deals with shibari and is really interesting as well. I believe it's called Kick. But I also love this one. If you love Marriage in Trouble, this is one of the best Marriage in Trouble books I've ever read. It also involves BDSM. She does it really well, and she clearly has a lot of knowledge around this topic, so it's not done in like a cheesy or cliche way. And I just love this book. I need to reread it actually. I've only read it once, but I think about it all the time. So that is it. All of the books that I have for you today. But these romance authors are absolutely exquisite, and I've read so many romance novels in my life, probably thousands and thousands of them, and these handful of authors always bring the heat, always bring the romance, and they leave me feeling like my cup is very full. So I hope that you guys try out some of the recommendations today. Let me know if you've read them before or if you haven't. If you have any recommendations of your own or books by these authors that you love that you want to talk about. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me for my book talk today. I will see you guys next week. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Bye.